Good morning and welcome to AI Daily. I'm your host, Farb. I'm here with my co hosts, Ethan and Connor, and we have three great news stories for you today. So let's jump in. The first story comes from Stability AI, which is actually two pieces of news. They've announced two big things. One is a new LLM chatbot they're saying is the world's first open source RLHF trained chatbot. As well as some cool text to image news. But let's start with the chatbot. Connor, can you tell us a little bit about what this means, world's first open source RLHF trained LLM chatbot?
Yeah, the RLHF is the key point here because RLHF stands for reinforcement learning with human feedback. And that's where when they train the model, they do the initial training of the neural net, but then they go back and fine tune it over human responses to how they like the model. So on like ChatGPT, when you get the little thumbs up or thumbs down and you click it, you get feedback. That's what reinforcement learning with human feedback is. So StableVicuna is the first open source model to have that. And that's another knock out of the park by Stability AI and getting us closer to an open source version of GPT-4 with the human touch that we see it have. So
Yeah, very cool. I had a chance to play with it a little bit. Ethan, how about you?
I did, yeah. I was able to use it through their Hugging Face model page. And just like Connor mentioned, when people talk about alignment, that's really what RLHF is. So we're seeing better responses with it. I've enjoyed using it, so we'll see how it continues to improve. They put out some previews of a UI they want to release with it, so excited for them.
Yeah, I played with their. I didn't get a chance to play with their text to image, but I dug into it a little bit. And one of the coolest things I found about it is it has the ability to upscale images. So it can first generate a small 64 by 64 image, and then it can upscale it twice up to a 1280 by 1280 image. And they're incredibly photorealistic. Obviously, they're showing off good examples, but two big pieces of news from Stability AI. What can we do with stuff like this, Ethan?
Well, if you've ever messed with Stable Diffusion of previous and you've ever tried to generate some text within the image, you probably know you can never read it. So if you are looking to generate images with text, looking for even logos or just more realistic images, these text to image models that they release with DeepFloyd are fantastic. And secondly, on the chat side, like Connor mentioned, this is the first RLHF chat trained LLM. So having these model weights open source, having this all on Hugging Face, it's an exciting time.
Connor, is this stuff we can use today, or do we got to wait a little bit?
with StableVicuna, you can use that today. I'm pretty sure DeepFloyd is not out yet.
Weights are available.
DeepFloyd's weights are available. So
Yeah, I think so as well. Their final upscaling, they said, is not quite available yet,
Yes.
but I think that's coming soon. Huge news from Stability AI. Let's move on to our second story, which is around AI and the medical space. A couple of big pieces of news. One that everybody was sort of sharing over the past few days was about this research study that was done that showed that it seemed that, I think it was GPT-4 that they were using for it, was giving what, patients perceived or people perceived as better responses with better bedside manner than doctors were giving. Now there was some community notes in the Twitter talking about how not all of the information it was giving was accurate, but I'm sure that's just going to obviously get better and better. And the other thing that's been around for a while is Dr. Gupta, which I finally had a chance to play with a little bit, and I found it really amazing. As you're talking to it, it's starting to show you the research that it's looking at and the studies that it's looking at to talk about it. And you're even seeing it update on the side with the symptoms that you're giving it and stuff like that. So, a couple of months ago, I don't think anybody would have thought that we would be talking about potentially using these types of things as actual medical advice. But it seems like we're knocking on the door of it, if not already there yet. So, Ethan, can you tell us a little bit more about, why you find this important, what you can do with it?
Yeah, you probably noticed while you're using Dr. Gupta too. Did you see how it was giving you kind of follow-up questions? If you said, hey, I have a slight headache, it asks you more questions versus just saying, oh, it could be this, it could be this. So if you notice that, I think we're seeing these models improve, better user experience to them. As you mentioned, with the research articles it pulls up, these are a much better experience than someone just using ChatGPT. So wrapping it in Dr. Gupta in that form has been fantastic. Like you mentioned on the tweets, always funny to see tweets like that go viral. There's some truth to it, I imagine. There's some more empathy when you have endless time as a chatbot, but those community notes on accuracy were not wrong. So we'll see how it continues to evolve.
Connor, you have any thoughts on this space? What's happening with AI in medical?
Dr. Gupta, I don't know if you guys played it with on your phone, but it's very fluid. It feels very natural compared to like a WebMD that people would traditionally use. You give it the medical information you want to share, and it asks follow-up questions, like Ethan said, and it really like digs deeper on what your problems are and how it can help you. So accuracy is of course a problem, but we'll see where it goes. So.
And Dr. Gupta, you can use now, and it's tough to compete if you're a doctor and someone asks you something. You have to, go through your own memory of what you've learned about that. But if you're a chatbot, you can go and scour all the latest PubMed research and include that. And in fact, in recent years, it's pretty normal for a doctor to sit there and actually, Google some PubMed information while they're trying to figure something out. And it's really cool to see this space progressing so rapidly. Let's move on to our third story for today, which is around GPT-4's code interpreter. Can you tell us a little bit about what GPT-4's code interpreter is, Ethan?
Yeah, so Code Interpreter is a ChatGPT plugin. So similar to, you've maybe seen other plugins like the web browser plugin, or maybe you've seen plugins for Kayak. But Code Interpreter is a code plugin. So really what it allows is gives ChatGPT the ability to create its own code environment and run really any type of code, whether it's Python, whether it's audio, whether it's Excel sheets. So when you open it up to something like this, the example we saw was Ethan Malik, I believe, on Twitter, put in an Excel sheet of venture capitalists in metropolitan areas. So you imagine, this big Excel sheet, bunch of data in it, and you want to create a visualization off of it. You want to create a bar chart. The Code Interpreter plugin allows you to do these type of things. It's opening the bounds of everything you could do with code, but bringing that to people who don't know how to code or haven't used code, or maybe don't know all the Excel macros like you're in finance. So this Code Interpreter was fascinating. We saw him generate, I think 10, 20 different data visualizations off one Excel sheet. That would either A, take someone an hour, or B, take someone 20 years to learn how to do that in 10 minutes. So seeing him be able to drop this Excel sheet in there, generate all of these visualizations is really mind-blowing. I mean, anyone who's ever tried to write code and now has that ability in the palm of their hands in a ChatGPT plugin. So it's been fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. You don't even have to know how to code or know anything about code at all. You can upload up to 100 megabyte file and just say, hey, I want a chart that shows me a map of this, or hey, I want to zoom in on this chart. And GPT-4 really understands the code and really translates between the code and natural language that you don't even know. You don't even have to know it's using code. And it's really like an exceptional use case for people. So,
yeah, I think this really closes the gap quite a bit between, the experts, as it were, and common people. We all have access to these open data sets, but doing regression analysis, doing hypotheses based on it, that's not easy for a common person to do, a normal person to do. So this basically allows anybody in front of their computer to almost be a research scientist, and really dig into publicly available data in a way that before, only a handful of people could do it. I thought one of the really interesting things in the story, I think he asked GPT-4, what data sets, if I, put into this, would be most likely to go viral. And it came up, one of its suggestions was SF crime data. So, they put in SF crime data, and got a whole bunch of visualizations around it. But even more than visualizations, it can provide hypotheses around the data and try and make connections and provide more insights into the data other than just visualizing it. Yeah. And then again, like I said, doing pretty advanced statistical analysis on it that is just not information and capabilities that are accessible to most people. So
yeah, I
thought that was super cool.
We're going to see a lot more with Code Interpreter too. Connor had a really good point in which it's going to be able to use Code Interpreter even when you're not directly asking it to. So a lot of times, hey, I want to clip part of an audio file. You should probably use code for that, but maybe you don't know how or don't even know that you should. So we're going to see code interpreter used across data visualization, audio, video, gosh, anything you use code for. So it's going to be cool. I hope
And
more people get access to it.
you can also definitely see coming a future where both the web browsing plugin and the code interpreter plugin are in one. So you can be like, hey, I want a clip of this politician saying this, and it looks for every clip of that politician, finds a transcript of each, uses code to extract that clip. Boom.
Can we start using this now, Connor, or is this what's
I
the
mean,
accessibility of this?
Some people can. Ethan Mullet can. So if you have access to the plugin, then use it. If not, it'll come to the rest of us eventually. But
Yeah, it's coming fast. So 3 big news stories today: Stability AI, AI in healthcare, and of course this new code interpreter plugin. But before we leave, what have you guys been seeing in the space? What have you guys been using in the space?
I've been honestly very fascinated on the Dr. Gupta side, on medical side in general. Even science.io from Will is fantastic. I mean, we're seeing processing medical documents better, being able to extract patient information. There's more chatbots to chat with your Apple Health data. So everything across the healthcare space with LLMs has been fascinating to me.
What about you, Connor?
yeah, there was another study I saw yesterday. It was about how boosting theory of mind performance in large language models via prompting. And it really showed that telling GPT-4, telling ChatGPT to go step by step is really the key differentiator in how much smarter you can make it be. It's really interesting with the research onto the prompt engineering.
Yeah, I saw something similar, and a prompt technique that I've found really helpful for a long time is really telling GPT what it is before you ask it to help you. So if you need help with being, with coding, for example, you tell it that it's an expert coder, that it's an expert programmer, and even more so, it specializes in helping novice programmers get through programming problems. And if you prompt it that way, it actually makes a big difference in how it responds to you. And then even further, if you add the sort of make it step by step, it really can get into excruciating detail. One time I asked it for excruciating detail, and it told me, I will give you these steps in excruciating detail. That was very cool to see. Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow with more about AI.
And finally, congratulations to the Italians on getting ChatGPT back.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
Welcome back into the fold. Have a great day, guys.
Peace, guys.